I've always had an interest in watches, but up until recently, I never really thought about how they worked or what separates a good watch from a bad watch. So after a little bit of research, now I'm here to share some findings with you. When you're exploring the world of men's watches, things can get pretty complicated and pretty overwhelming. So in this video, I'm just going to stick to the basics and let you know the fundamental things you need to think about when buying a watch. Hey guys, I'm Kyle from The Distilled Man. Before we get started, I wanted to give a big thanks to Dame Watches for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. So what do you need to know about watches? Types of watch movements. So you can't really talk about watches without talking about movements. No, not those kind of movements. You can think of a watch movement as basically like the engine inside the watch that keeps it running. So it powers the hands and any other features on your watch. There are really just three types of watch movements that you need to know about: quartz, mechanical, and automatic. Quartz movements. So quartz movement is what you typically find in an everyday watch. Quartz watches come in a wide variety of quality, from less expensive versions that you might find at mass retail to higher end brands. Quartz watches are battery powered, and that their movement causes that signature ticking of the second hand. And they're called quartz timepieces because they actually have a tiny piece of quartz crystal inside, and the energy from the battery vibrates that crystal at exactly 32,768 times per second. These vibrations get measured and converted into 1 pulse per second. So the pros of quartz watches are that, number one, they're more accurate. They're less likely to lose seconds or gain seconds throughout the day. Quartz watches have fewer moving parts, so there's fewer things that can go wrong inside them. So besides swapping out your watch battery every few years, they don't really require that much maintenance. They're the least expensive. As a general rule, quartz watches are almost always less expensive than mechanical or automatic watches. They're also more durable. The fewer moving parts in a quartz watch also benefit them in this area. If your job involves getting dirty and dusty all day, then a quartz watch might be right for you. Now for some of the downside of quartz watches. First, they don't have a smooth movement. If you're looking for that sweeping, smooth movement of a mechanical watch, then you're not going to find that with quartz. That sort of exaggerated secondhand tick, tick, tick action is just kind of a signature of the way that the mechanism operates in a quartz watch. Quartz watches are more likely to be mass produced, so there often isn't that same level of craftsmanship or care that goes into making a quartz watch as there is into going into a watch with a mechanical movement. Mechanical movements. A mechanical movement doesn't require a battery. Instead, it needs to be manually wound periodically to keep on running. A mechanical movement uses a spring-driven mechanism called the mainspring, which, once it's wound up, transfers energy to smaller springs and gears that power the hands and other functions of the watch. Here are some pros and cons of mechanical watches. First, they last longer. A quality mechanical watch, if it's properly maintained and properly cared for, will last your entire life. You might even be able to pass it on to another generation. With a mechanical movement, you never need to worry about batteries dying or needing to be replaced. And rewinding your watch each day can become an enjoyable ritual. Mechanical watches just tend to look and feel better and be of a slightly higher quality than most quartz watches. Many of them might also have gears exposed, so you can see the inner workings and oscillations of the watch. They tend to feature higher quality materials overall, like sapphire crystal instead of glass. Mechanical watches are also generally more tactile and have more character to them. Smooth hand movement. A lot of people really like that sweeping movement of a mechanical watch and even find it a little hypnotizing. So if that's important to you, you should definitely consider a mechanical watch. Here are some of the downsides to mechanical watches. First, they require regular winding. With a quartz watch, you can put it in a drawer and it's just going to keep on ticking and stay on time for several weeks, even months maybe. But with a mechanical watch, you really can't go more than about 2 days without winding it. Some people enjoy winding up their watch at the end of each day and then look forward to it, while others find it a nuisance. And if you fall into that latter category, then maybe a mechanical watch isn't the best choice for you. They aren't as accurate. Even the best mechanical watches are only about 99.99% accurate. And that may sound amazing, but even a difference of 0.01% can result in you losing a second or two each day. Over the course of the years, your watch will get less and less accurate. Every 5 to 10 years or so, you'll need to take your watch to the jeweler to get tuned up a bit. Quartz watches don't tend to fall out of sync like that. They're environmentally sensitive. Mechanical watches are full of tiny gears and springs, so exposure to dust, shock, moisture, or even magnets can really wreak havoc on them. And most modern mechanical watches are designed to counteract those things. But if you're constantly working with dirty parts all day or hammering, then it might be easier to wear your quartz watch at work and then just reserve your mechanical watch for when you get dressed up. And finally, they're more expensive. A lot more work and craftsmanship goes into making a mechanical watch, so naturally that is reflected in the price. It's hard to find a quality mechanical watch for under $200, and most of them are going to be well over $500. And with luxury brands like Rolex or Cartier, you could be looking at tens of thousands of dollars. Automatic movements. An automatic watch movement uses the kinetic energy from the motion of your wrist to drive the mechanism of the watch instead of relying on being manually wound or relying on a battery. Automatic watches are often also called self-winding watches. So if you think the idea of having to wind your mechanical watch every day might sound annoying, then an automatic watch might be worth looking into. These movements use a metal weight called a rotor, which spins when you move your wrist, and the spinning transfers energy to wind a mainspring inside your watch. So here's some of the pros of automatic watches. First, no winding or batteries required. An automatic watch almost works like magic. As long as you wear it regularly, then it will continue to function normally. An automatic movement comes with the same sophisticated look and smooth hand movement you'd expect from a mechanical watch, but without the added hassle of having to wind it every day. Automatic watches tend to be a little bit thicker than other mechanical watches even, because they need to accommodate the extra space for the rotor. An automatic watch feels more weighty and significant on your wrist, and a lot of people like that heaviness. But if you're looking for something a little more minimalist, that actually may be a downside for you. The cons of an automatic watch are similar to those of a mechanical watch, so they're less accurate than quartz and they'll need some tune-ups to keep going, and they're more sensitive to environmental factors. Like other mechanical watches, automatic watches similarly have a pretty high price point because of the extra craftsmanship and engineering involved in making them work. The biggest downside to an automatic watch is that it needs to be stored in a watch winder when you're not wearing it. A watch winder is a machine that slowly spins and keeps your automatic watch wound while you're not wearing it. It doesn't cost that much money, but it is going to take up extra room on your shelf, and it's one more thing to think about. Of course, the alternative is just to make sure that you wear your automatic watch every single day. The 5 C's of watch terminology. Now, the world of watches has its own entire vocabulary, but here are just 5 terms that you might hear when shopping for the perfect watch that don't have immediately obvious meanings. First, there's caliber. And don't be confused, this is just another fancy word for movement. Chronograph, a watch that has a stopwatch function in addition to being able to tell time. Chronometer. So this is a watch that has been independently tested by the COSC, which is the official Swiss Chronometer Testing Institute. And a watch that meets this threshold has to be verified as accurate for a certain number of days. Complication. I know it sounds so negative, right? But it really is just any extra feature beyond telling the time. So a watch might have a calendar built into it or a moon phase indicator, something like that. Crown. The crown of your watch is the little knob that sticks out on the end that allows you to change time, that little wheel. Bonus term, bezel. Okay, I know this one does not start with a C, so it totally messes up that whole cute little alliteration thing, but bezel is also good for you to know. A bezel is an outer ring on the outside of the case of your watch, and often it's made out of the same metal as the case of your watch, or it can be a different metal for contrast. Also, one other term you might hear when thinking about watches is horology, which, believe it or not, actually means the study of time, because it kind of sounds like well, never mind. I'm not going to touch that one. How to buy a men's watch. When it comes to buying a watch for yourself or finding a gift for someone else, here are a few things to keep in mind. First, what kind of movement does it have? We've already talked about quartz, mechanical, and automatic movements. The main thing to keep in mind is that mechanical or automatic watches generally are more expensive to buy and more expensive to maintain. Quartz watches are going to be better if you're on a budget, and they can still look great. What is the case size or diameter? Now, this one really depends on your proportions. So I'd recommend going out to a jewelry store and trying on several watches to see what size watch works for you. If you're a bigger guy, you might want a really large and hefty watch, or if you're smaller, you might also want something that matches your proportions. For most guys, a watch diameter of around 40 millimeters tends to be ideal, though. In addition to matching the watch face to your proportions, you should also pay attention to the thickness of the watch, especially if you wear tightly fitted sleeves. What materials and colors is it? Watches come in all different types of case and face combination and different materials and different colors. Some people love all black watches because they're easy to match to anything, while silver and gold are a little bit more traditional. I'd recommend looking at what other jewelry you usually wear. So trying to find something that matches your wedding ring, for instance, rather than clashing with it might be a good idea. What kind of band do you want? A leather band or metal links can be great for a business or professional setting. Fabric or canvas is great in terms of comfort and durability, but style-wise, it generally is on the more casual end of things. Suede bands are a little more modern and urban. And plastic or rubber bands are often used for inexpensive or sports watches. With leather and other fabrics, one thing to look for is whether the materials have been glued together or stitched together, because often stitched materials are going to hold together a little bit longer than their glued counterparts. What about water resistance? Some watches say that they're water resistant, but without quantifying it, it usually just means that they have some basic guards against humidity, so they can handle a little bit of splashing when you're, say, washing your hands, but you wouldn't really want to shower, bathe, or submerge the watch in a pool, for instance. You're going to be around water a lot. If your watch is actually going to be submerged, you want to get a watch that specifies the depth to which it can be submerged. So something that's at least like 50 meters. And then the real question, how much money do you want to spend? There's almost no limit to the amount of money that you can spend on a quality men's watch. No, literally, there are mechanical watches out there that are upwards of $1 million. It's possible to find quality mechanical watch for under $300, but most are going to be in the $300 to $700 range and more, while, luxury brands can be as many as thousands of dollars. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to give another big thanks to Dame Watches for sponsoring this video and making it possible for us to share this information with you. The name Dame is an anagram for the word made. They create watches for ambitious men who are on the journey to becoming self-made. It's a watch for people who create opportunities for themselves and for others. Dame's watches are designed from scratch in Brooklyn, New York. They have a wide variety of designs, whether you're looking for something casual or a bit more formal. And their timeless designs go really well with almost any outfit. Their watches use Swiss-made Ronda 505 movements for precise and accurate timekeeping. And their face is protected by an ultra scratch-resistant sapphire crystal glass. And the straps that they use on their watch feature a genuine stitched Italian leather for added longevity and comfort. Dame watches have a diameter of about 40 millimeters, which I think looks good on almost any wrist. Their watch isn't too thick either. I like the slim profile of their watch. It measures just about 9 millimeters from case bottom to top. Despite all their finer touches, Dame watches are still really affordable for the everyday guy, which I really appreciate. And if you're interested in checking out Dame watches, you can use offer code DM20 at checkout to save 20% off. And I'll go ahead and link to their website in the description below. All right, that's it, guys. If you like this video, do me a favor and hit that like button now. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do that by clicking right about here. If you want to just watch another Distilled Man video, then you can do that by clicking right about here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.